Hello everybody, this is a great little hangout with Mark Steele, who really nicely came on a hangout. We've never met each other before, never talked to each other before, but he came on this hangout, which is great. But of course, when I started, I forgot to set it up right. I have to be on twice, by the way. I have to be able to, it used to be so easy. I used to go on Hangouts and do it all on Google, do it all on YouTube. It would all upload. You'd have your Hangout, it was on there. Now, for me to have very similar thing, I have to record it all. And to record it all, I need to be on the same Hangout as them and also be on my computer. I forgot to put the computer one, being so overwhelmed with Mark coming on, like I was flustered, and suddenly thought, oh no, we're talking and I'm not on there. So you'll see it starts off with just Mark, then it goes on to me coming on. But the hangout ended the same way. It was just one of those things, but at least I got some time with Mark. Anyway, I hope you enjoy.
Yes, I think we're just hitting over lunch. We barely started to rumble a bit, so I'm getting a bit peckish. So it'll be time to go and get something to eat because I've got quite a lot of talks to do. Yeah, I've got to keep them. Well, there's some really interesting things going on. We're just getting a report from a German pathologist who's looked at a number of the bodies that have been reported to have died from this hoax, and they've confirmed that they haven't died of anything that's been stated in the press. So the press are basically part of a fake terrorizing narrative, an attack on the countries. Well, they're terrorizing the population and making up this whole thing. It's just a total fabrication. The science doesn't stack up. What they're saying, I'm not saying that a lot of people didn't die in Wuhan and haven't died in Italy, but what's causing that illness is most certainly the 5G deployment. Some characters, talking about Iran. Iran have 5G. All of the areas where we're seeing this death from this, what they're saying is a virus, which it isn't a virus, it's a microwave radiation pollution that causes pulmonary edema or edema, where you either fill up in the lungs, damage the lung space. They've been, yeah, it's all a game. Well, what they've been doing, they've been planning to kill us for quite a number of years. It goes back a long, long time. But the issue that they die as well. So what we're saying to people, obviously, self-preservation. Self-preservation, these people don't want to die. I mean, I was talking to somebody the other day who tells me that the frontline services are going to get this contaminated vaccine. It's contaminated with nano aluminium particles. It was the one that was used in China to kill the Chinese. So the frontline services are actually the people who are going to be the target for this weapon system. So that's pretty interesting. So for all the lies that they've been telling folk, no, I think what's happened, they've turned the microwave radiation on, and obviously what they're trying to do, they're planning this hoax pandemic. It's basically because what they need to do, what actually happened, they tested the 5G in South Korea and set fire to 5G.
That's it, right? We're here now. So I'm gonna put I've left the recorder on. Yeah. So you were just saying, I just asked you the question. Do you think that the figures that we're being given are real?
No, absolutely anything that's in the mainstream media, it's usually 180 degrees away from the reality. So it's like the hospitals are empty. You speak to any nurses that are in there, there's nobody dying of this. But what they're gearing up to kill everybody. And what they're going to do, they're going to force vaccinate. Because when they tried the weapon in South Korea, this was an attack on South Korea.
They've been trying to kill us for forever, though, haven't they? Because we've got the thalidomide children, we've got autism children, they're experimenting on us the whole time.
They have been, they're poisoning the water. I just did a video on it this morning. They're poisoning the water, the food chain, they're poisoning everything because they want you dead. But you see what happens, we're very, very resilient. It's like, you get rats who get rat poison. The first few rats will die, and then obviously they become resilient to it. And that's what's happened throughout history. So all of these pandemics where they've, you know, tried to weed out the populace. One of the reasons for wars, that weeds out quite a lot of people.
I'm not sure if wars exist anymore. Very quickly, because I know I've asked you to come and talk to me, but you know, when you start doing your research, I noticed that when we went to America in the Neapolitan times, we were asked to go over there. It seemed that half the world went to America. When we got there, we were quarantined and they took children off us, and that became the orphan trains in the 1800s. Then we had the Second World War. They did the same thing. Children were displaced. Goodness knows what they told half the children. They took the children. Hitler did the same thing. Hitler misplaced the adults from the children and took the children. That was one of his jobs. He was in on it too.
Absolutely. Well, it's one of the things you can do is to displace children, and then what you do is you control the
because none of us come from our original countries. My bloodline is I'm half Welsh and half European.
Yeah.
You know, when you actually talk to someone, they'll say, oh, I'm English, Irish, and I'm German, or I'm French. They've been moving us around for years.
Yeah. Well, it's
and I'm actually wondering whether that's what the trees were about as well. If we keep going through these things that they do to us, because there's a Tartarian time, which no one can explain about, and then this happened in supposedly 1918 when we got Spanish flu, then no one would have been cutting the trees down because no one had the money.
Yes.
So I thought about that today. That came whizzed through my mind. But yeah, the whole time was just one big experiment. And the fluoride in the water. Oh my God.
The facilitated the kill by, you know, developing this, you know, this fake currency, this fiat currency. Because prior to that, when they were on the gold stand, it was going to be very, very difficult for them to put all this technology. I mean, think about the billions and billions that are being, well, trillions across the world that are being spent on all the councils are bankrupt. They're fitting toxic LEDs, street furniture, all part of the secret UN Resilient Cities agenda. They're getting the councils into more debt. To, you know, they're using taxpayers. We couldn't
carry on like this, though, could we? I mean, my son bought a 3-bedroom bungalow. Yeah, it was detached. It was over 400,000. I mean, who in today can afford to buy a house for 400,000, just a 3-bedroom house? We couldn't keep going that way. It was becoming ridiculous. But I just feel very sorry for everybody who believed in the system, believed that we were getting our sovereignty back. You know, we thought, oh, we've got our sovereignty back within what, a couple of months? We're in this one world order.
Well, it doesn't matter. Of course you are. Well, you weren't going to get your sovereignty back. The whole thing was just, I spoke to a lot of people about Brexit. That's why I was very annoyed. You know, UK column, Caroline Stevens, there was a lot of people covering Brexit. And after I'd spoke about 5G as a kill grid in 2018, they just seemed to go off at a tangent and want to talk about things that didn't really matter. Because obviously everybody was focused on Brexit. So they thought they would just, you know, get involved with this fake narrative, because the Brexit thing was fake. You only got the vote, you only won the vote because they wanted you to win the vote to keep you distracted.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Boris never won with an 80-seat majority. It was all filmed weeks before.
It was all deployed. It was that whole Brexit
weeks before. And these actors are running us.
Yeah. Well, that's what I always take issue with these, with anybody in the alternative media who talk about the fake narrative. The fake narrative was Brexit. We had a lot of that. I mean, they had people set up specifically to talk about Brexit and all the rest of it. The whole thing was fake while they deployed a weapon. The weapon system's been deployed across the world, including the United Kingdom. So while everybody was arguing about Brexit, we've got a weapon system being deployed across the country to kill everybody.
Yeah, do you know what I think it's linked to? I overlaid it yesterday on one of my videos with the harp, and it all matches up to harp. 5G and harp match up.
Part of kill. The harp weapon's called brain. Its actual name's called brain bomb. And
is it what they're doing? I remember, listen, when I was married to the boy's dad, my boy's dad, he went for this course on fibre optics, and he came back and he said, this is years ago, so this is about nearly 20 years ago, so 18 years ago, and he said that he'd obviously had the course, but he said, I've got to learn what fibre optics is. I need many more courses because this stuff is so intricate and so detailed that it would take you years to understand how good it is. Now, he told me that 18 years ago. And I was wondering, is that what they're linking up to the antennas or something?
Yes, there's nothing wrong with fibre optic as long as it's in a fibre. If it goes to an antenna, it's part of the kill grid.
Yeah, that's what I think. I think they're connecting all the fibre optics to the antennas and things.
Exactly what they're doing. It's so they can get enough the capability.
Do you know, I worked that one out myself. Yeah. I worked that one out myself. It's what I've been telling people that I think that they're doing. They're putting the fibre optics. But listen, I was walking around in London a couple of weeks ago, and they did say that they were putting in systems. Virgin were putting in the wires for the internet, but we know that's all part of 5G. And so we're all on lockdown, and they're all out putting cables in.
Yeah, because they're trying to kill you.
Listen, also, my boyfriend, I just want to say, he's got things on the top of his flats. He's got them in front of him. He's got them to the left of him. He looks out and he can just see them all on top of the buildings. Mm-hmm. And then when you look to the right, there's a building in London that's got an antenna, a bit like a twin tower antenna on top of the building with other antennas. And you're thinking, oh, it's just all antennas here. It's all things. It's all... you can see it all from his flat.
Yeah, well, that's what they're planning. They're planning a mass genocide, and the problem that they have is way too early. We're far too early in the fight. When I was starting to tell people about, I mean, when I first started telling people about this in 2016, 2017, it was unbelievable. I mean, who's going to believe you? A council just put a weapon system on a bit of street furniture. It's unbelievable.
I understand, and you sound like you're the crazy one when actually you're just telling people the truth. I understand that. I've had that myself with the Watts case, because when I was breaking down the videos, the amount of messages that would come in like I was crazy, and the rest of them, you need to go to a doctor. They weren't very nice, any of them, and they're like that. They just think you're crazy, and you're telling them the truth.
Yeah.
So I do understand. I do understand that. So
yeah.
So basically,
the good thing
I felt like it wasn't working. Whatever was working. See, that's the other thing that's really amazed me is that, say 8 weeks ago, we'd have been queuing to see a doctor, and say 8 weeks, and it would have taken 4 hours at casualty. Now you can just walk straight in. There's no one in the hospitals. No one.
Well, anybody that goes, there's sort of a chance you go to hospital and you won't come back out. You'll be dead. Because if they can, I mean, I don't blame anybody for not going to a hospital today, because that's basically part of the kill grid.
So, but we didn't do what we were supposed to do. So their plan failed because we weren't continuing to go to the hospital, and then those people would get the horrible injection, and then we'd have a pandemic then, because everybody going to hospital then would be ill.
Yeah.
But it didn't happen because everybody stayed at home. We gave in peacefully. This is what's so upsetting, is they've, on all these Crime Watch daily programs, they're trying to make it look like we're a bunch of heathens that are always murdering each other. But the television made those programs to make it look like that's what we are, to make people depressed, to make people think all sorts of things that weren't true. None of it's true. We're peaceful people.
It's one thing, you have to be very mindful of human beings have a propensity to just believe anything they're told, but also, you see, people, man and woman, aren't evil beings. They're not evil. Consequently, they can't get into this evil mindset of their genocide, this genocidal plan.
Yeah, they can't imagine it, can they? That
imagine it, see the
plan for us.
Well, exactly. Well, you see, I've sat in meetings where the plans. Let's say, some of the munitions. Where
do you think it's really crazy that they basically, Mark, like putting all this stuff in without testing it properly, including the injections? Because obviously, if they get a vaccine, there's less testing, and they already know that a lot of the vaccines that they've produced for us are failing. So they already know they're failing, and then it's a bit like the Constant Gardener film. Did you see that one, when he realizes what's going on in Africa when they're lying about the tests? So it's the same sort of thing, but with a vaccine, it goes through a lot less testing.
Yes.
So that's why they want us to have the vaccine. So they want us to have all this stuff that's not tested.
Yes.
In a place where we're living with there's regulations and so many regulations, you almost can't walk out your front door. Yeah, there's no regulations on the vaccines. They'll just make them. And do you know something else? I've got to tell you this. I've got to tell you this so that you know. With the Watts case, now I think they did that on purpose. They wanted us watching. They wanted to see how far they could go on that case, because millions, I mean millions, were watching it. and were totally depressed.
Yeah.
Okay. And so they've been doing this for a long time. They've been getting us ready, and people don't realize that the television is a stage and it's all put on there for us. So whatever they're doing is they're testing us out all the time. Testing.
Well,
I
no,
mean,
'cause what happens? They've got to get you to tacitly agree to the death. They've actually, that's part of the plan. They've actually got to get you to tacitly agree. They can't just kill you, because what happens? It puts it out of the universal balance. So they've got to tell you. They can deceive you, but they can't totally just come along and kill you because you're sovereign, you see. So they've got to get your tacit agreement, like smart meters. Can't give you a smart meter, they've got to ask for it. Or they've got to deceive you into
I've
taking
refused
one.
that goddamn
Yeah, yeah.
smart meter. There's no way I want
Well,
it.
the reason for the vaccine, see, the plan was to put 50 million smart meters in people's homes, and then we're going to pull what's called an EMP, and basically just burn your house down. Now, they can't do that because people have refused them. So now what they're doing, they're going to do this vaccination. They're going to give you a vaccination, which there'll be a lot of people who, queue up to get it. It's actually got nanoparticulates in, and that'll kill you. They're going to kill you. Their plan is to commit mass genocide, but they've got to get your tacit agreement. And as soon as you go, I do not consent. And see, anybody who voted in the last election, that's why I tell people to get involved with Sun, because it breaks the tacit agreement. If you voted in the last election for any of the major parties, you've tacitly agreed to die because you put a tick in the box. You've sealed the contract.
Yeah, and they don't realise it didn't matter which one you voted for. You still
They
gave
all
your right away for them to do what they wanted.
They all had the 5G weapon in that manifesto. They knew it was a weapon. I had a Labour MP who was really good. They removed him because he was asking the wrong questions in Parliament about this technology, and they removed him from his post, and they put an absolute useless, indoctrinated drone in his place. Total waste of space. But this guy, Dave Anderson, he actually brought this up in Parliament on a number of occasions, and he was lied to by Public Health England and the authorities because they knew what they were planning. So they're planning this mass genocide. But you see, they've got to get the tacit agreement. So anybody who voted for any of those parties, you've agreed to die. And what happens, that's why people must break that. They must break that tacit agreement by being party to Sun. Because
Can I just say something though? We already know, don't we, when Boris is standing there saying that he got this 80-seat majority. He didn't. He did not get that majority. The decision was what they wanted. So they said 80 seats, but he didn't. And I don't think a lot of people voted. People did vote, but a lot of people didn't vote. And he didn't get an 80-seat majority. It's all part of the game. I just wanted to tell you one other thing you might not be aware of. You know how these things suddenly come into your feed, like on your homepage. And this one came in about NASA. And it said that NASA wanted to take over the world. They want to do local government. They want to do flights. They want to do this. They want to do that. It's with drones. It's dropping people off on top of buildings and stuff like that. And then basically they were talking about cognitive engineering, if you know what that is.
yes,
So NASA are into cognitive engineering, which is all about controlling us and making us believe the cartoons.
Vaccines are all part of that as well. The metallized particulates that can control your mind. It's all part. So look, they've been planning this kill for a long time. The good thing is a lot of people now are starting to wake up because, like I've said about 5G, 5G is the key. And the reason for that is demonstrably, if you look at the science and the technicalities, it is demonstrably illegal. It is unlawful.
Are they trying to put us in another dimension? 5G. It's like putting us in
No, I just think they want you dead. To be fair, they just want you dead.
But the thing is, though, we were going to the doctors. Like it took you weeks to go and see a doctor for queuing up to go. Now no one's going. It's like they've shut up shop. It's like we're being taken over by something else.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It's like we're being taken over. Because I just remember in November, this garage was changing hands from a co-op and a Texaco garage, and then Merkel came in with their little shop, and that's just what it reminds me of, that we're in a takeover at the moment. Someone else is taking us over. Because they need nearly, except for the very big businesses, like Tesco's and Asda and Pizza Hut are open, but None of the little shops are open. We've completely shut up shop, and there's another 2 or 3 weeks of it.
Yeah.
It's pretty disgusting. But I couldn't believe, how can NASA be into cognitive engineering?
They've been into it for a while. So
People just don't realise what's going on. They just turn the thing on and watch the news. They don't realise that if they just did some of their own research, they'd find that there's a different thing. It's all different. What's happening is different to what you're being told on the television.
Well, anybody that watches the mainstream, believe it, you haven't got much hope, because they're conditioning people. It's all part of the kill grid.
Yeah, because they make the news up. That's why. Because what it is suddenly, oh, come on, that's it. Trump's gone. I'm just saying this. This isn't true, by the way. But Trump's gone to war. We'll say, let's pick somewhere he won't pick. I don't know. Canada. Right, he's going to war with Canada, and they'll make a whole war for us, and we'll believe it. And all they're doing is showing stock photographs, and people just don't realise that when you turn that television on, it's EastEnders and Dallas all the way.
Yeah.
People don't realise it. They believe it. We used to, didn't we? When we were younger, we believed it.
Yeah.
But now I don't. For many years now I don't. I don't put the television on. I bet you don't, do you?
No. I'll watch it. I'll watch a film. I'll watch a fantasy film. It's what I watch on TV. I just don't watch anything else.
They're totally mind controlling us. All the documentaries, the whole thing. It's all just one big lie. Well, they tell bits of truth, and then they cover it over with masses of lies. When did you start getting into all this then, Mark? Because obviously it's a passion of yours, this 5G. Because obviously I've watched a few videos of yours. Marilyn sends me all your videos. And Marilyn's the person that set this hang up. I don't know where she is, but she was busy for a little bit. So obviously she still is. But, when did you start getting into all this?
Well, what happened now was they put the LED streetlights in my home. And I know that the little radiation from those lights is pretty toxic. But I've got blackout blinds. And then I started getting a lot of women in the area and children getting nosebleeds. And I had one lady in particular, this Debbie, neighbour of mine, she was getting terrible bad heads, anxiety, but nosebleeds. And I thought, well, I was looking at
they had like the foggy feeling going on in their head.
Yeah, foggy.
Because I know people in London who feel like that now.
Oh, London's stinking. The people of London need to wake up. Honestly, this stuff, I was talking to a guy the other day. Debbie Chisholm, I measured the radiation in her bedroom. It was 1700 millivolts from one of these transmitters, an illegal amount of radiation. The maximum I can expose you to for long terms, 200 millivolts. That's the Council of Europe 1815 resolution. She was 1700 all 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. That knocked 20 years off her life. She was getting nosebleeds. We had lots of kids getting nosebleeds. I was talking to a guy in London last week. He measured it in his flat, 17,000 millivolts. And I said, look, there's something wrong with your meter. Now, I've measured it in London in the streets before at about 5,000, which is it was around Westminster. No one of them drones that will have for MPs are all sick. It was 7,000 millivolts in 5,000 in Westminster. And I said, look, there's something wrong with your meter. Can it be 1,700 millivolts in your house? And he went outside and measured it. And sure enough, there's nothing wrong with the meter. It was 5,000 outside. But he was 17,000 in his home. I said, you need to get out of that house. You'll die. The building codes, they're actually in breach of the building codes. The house could burst into flames at any time. This is microwave radiation.
Where's all these regulations when you need them then?
The regulations are there. They're just breaking them. The regulations are there. It would be in breach of the building codes. It's in breach of everything. We're talking about a mass murder, mass genocide.
I can't believe, in a sense, I mean, we have been watching it happen. And, I went to work and they've got a mask there and I can see another mask over there. And, I found this website and it's saying, don't put these things anywhere near children or people. And where are they? Near children and people. But people just don't realise. They just got away with doing all this. Like, even Richard Branson's doing it in Virgin. They're all just getting away with it.
It's all illegal. The equipment's illegal, but it's all part of the plan to kill you. And in the law, in the authority, so it's
I
supposed
think
to
that's
protect
I
you.
think that's been the game anyway from the
Yeah,
beginning. It seems that they just want to kill sections of the community off.
no, they want to kill everybody. It's about killing all biological life. This spiritual war we're fighting. It's between good and evil. This is between good and evil.
Do you
It's
think
not.
when the news goes on, you know, when they're constantly standing there going on about the pandemic, do you think that they're actually giving subliminal messages to turn yourself off?
Yeah,
Because there's a lot of people who put out stuff about hospitals, like my friend Amy, her dad died at Christmas, and no, he wasn't doing very well, but they wanted him to live. And what she noticed was that they were slowly dehydrating him, which obviously will kill you and isn't a very nice death. How do they know what dying of dehydration's like when you're not very well? But he went in, he had a cancer, they had a tumour in his brain. He survived that and he was in remission, but his whole body was twisted. After the radiation, he was twisted, he couldn't speak, he couldn't look after himself, he couldn't move in the bed. You know, his whole life changed from. So they cleared him of the rate of the tumour, but he wasn't a human being anymore. But basically, towards the end, because you know he had every infection you could think of because of the radiation, the nurses were saying, "Tell your dad to go to Jesus." And I found other videos with the same. They tell the relatives to tell the person to die. So I was wondering whether they were doing that on the news, that you didn't realise subliminal messages, hidden
yeah.
things.
Well, LED screens that can do lots of stuff like that.
So annoying, isn't it? Everything we trust in isn't real.
Yeah, nothing.
Nothing, none of it's
Well, the
real.
good, you see, not the good thing about 5G. The 5G is such an existential threat. This is what will make people wake up because none of them survive. So I say to people, look, if you go along with the narrative, you just carry on doing what you're doing, you're going to die. Nobody wants to die. So what I'm saying is come over to the light, come up to the good side and win. Uphold the law and win. Uphold the law and survive. That's what people have to do.
Do you think that this time round, because of something like the internet, that the people had woken up? There's a lot more people awake, and this is why their plan hopefully won't work.
That's exactly. Well, you see, the more people out wake up, their plan can't work because look, we are just all energy. This is just an energy field, and all
Yeah, we're
energy has to.
frequencies, aren't we?
All energy, it needs balance. Energy will fight for balance. That's why you get electricity goes to Earth. It's looking for Earth. It's looking for balance. So once as an energy field, once enough people wake up to see that this is wrong and don't consent, then the kill can't go ahead. But while people tacitly agree to be murdered and go along like the sheep to the slaughter, when they get slaughtered, that's just what's going to happen. So it's about people waking up and not accepting this and actually fighting against
You
it.
know what I feel as well? Everybody's waiting for someone to come and save us. No one's going to save us. We're on our own.
We save ourselves. We
Yeah.
save ourselves. Nobody's coming to save you. I'm not saying that the creator understands the balance in the universe and the energy fields. But what we have to remember, it is up to us to use that energy to fight against this, to understand and become knowledgeable. See, if you're based as a cretin, you're classed as a cretin, a pleb, somebody who just doesn't know anything, then obviously they don't have, it doesn't knock the universal balance out by you being murdered or any genocide being committed on you. If you tacitly agree to be murdered, you're actually doing a deal to be murdered. So consequently, you're not out of balance. To get it out of balance, we've got to get enough people to go, no, we do not consent. Once we start that, then they can't do it. This is a really important thing. That's why I say to people,
Yeah, I wish on the ballot paper, although it's a bit irrelevant now to where we are, but I was moaning when we were going for the vote, and I was just saying, why couldn't there be a box on there that says I'm voting, but I'm not voting for them? Because you'd find that millions would have filled that box, but then they'd have probably lied about the figures anyway, wouldn't they? So annoying. We're stuck, so we're on our own. We've got to do this ourselves. That's what I think, anyway.
Yeah, oh yeah, absolutely. No, I absolutely agree with you. I get sick of people telling us, well, it's like if some fairy godmother is going to come out to the. I'm not saying that the creator who created all this understands, but you see, through lack of knowledge, people have turned away from the creator. You see, they go in, they sit and watch that television, they sit and listen to these cretinous
Liars. They're
creatures.
lying through their teeth. They
Just
don't have
liars.
any souls, these
They
people.
haven't got souls. They haven't got souls. They've got no soul.
So we've got this far. We've got you putting out masses of information about it. So where do you go now then?
The thing to do is just gather numbers. This is a numbers game. Numbers game. Contact your local police. Make complaints. Just put the information out there. You see, every time you contact any of these authorities, you're putting the information right at that door. And if they've got any sense and they look at it, they'll realise that what you're saying is correct. And that pulls the whole system down because more and more people then wake up. I mean, I've had police officers who've woken up. I've had nurses who are waking up. I've got people right across the whole spectrum waking up. Judges, barristers, politicians waking up. I mean, David Davis, even in the mail.
Do you know what, Mark? Once you see it, you can never, ever go back and pretend. You can't go back and pretend it was like it was. And it totally ruins everything because, this isn't a talk about this, but they're lying to us about what we're living on.
Yeah.
So it goes even deeper than that. It goes to the core, and they've made everybody believe that we can go to space and all this crap. We can't.
Shit.
That's right. I couldn't have put it better myself. Do you because what people don't understand is even though you're talking masses, you were shocked when you first found out, weren't you? I bet you were.
No, totally shocked. When I saw that it was a weapon system they put in the street furniture, I couldn't believe it. I had to pinch myself and go, am I really seeing this?
Yeah, because it's hard to, but then it leads you down in a way, it does lead you down a rabbit hole, doesn't it? Because it leads you to the next thing, and then you just realise it's layer upon layer upon layer. In fact, so many layers, you don't know where to stop. You could, I've been researching myself since 2016. And I'm still learning stuff, and people think they know everything when they're so poorly educated, and that's it. They don't even realise the spells they're using and the words. They don't even realise that. So I just wanted everybody to realise that you were just as shocked as when you're telling them the information and the penny drops and then they get all hateful and angry. But you were in that place yourself. You're just a few years on from that.
Yeah. So it was about 2000, and I mean, I couldn't believe it.
Yeah, it's horrible to think, that we're living in something completely different, isn't it? It blew my mind. It still blows my mind. But, when you find out that NASA wants to do cognitive engineering and run the world, you think, are they the ones that have taken over? It's like we've been taken over right now by somebody else, like we've exchanged hands. Do you understand what I mean? That's what I think's going on. How can you close the world down on something that you had to be 1 in 66,400 to get it?
Mm.
It's not very good, is it?
No.
So obviously you're quite a busy person, aren't you, yourself? I know you are. You've been telling me when you came on. So what do you do? Spend a lot of time talking to more people and working out more and more?
Yeah, just building an army of resistance.
Yeah. So what's the next thing then? Because you've done the one about steroids, which I've got uploaded, which I shall put out in the next day or so on Unscrambled. The one about steroids.
Yeah, just keep on getting the information out and build numbers. That's what's really important. And don't do as you're told. Doing as you're told, the deal get you dead. Simple as that. You just carry on with the narrative. Tell everybody who you put this out to. Anybody carries on with the mainstream narrative, they have plans to kill you.
Is this the spiritual war, you mean? So those that are awake are going...
The spiritual war is really interesting because what I'm talking about the universal, the illusion. You're living in an illusion, all right, but it's an illusion of energy. And once people realise what I'm talking about, they realise why they have to resist. They have to resist.
You mean you're
If
back
they
to the
don't,
frequency part of things again?
yeah. Well, if they do it, you say, right. I did a video this morning. I'm laughing and carrying on. I mean, obviously, we're talking about the mass genocide of 6-7 billion people across the planet and all biological life. And people are looking and think, well, why is he laughing and carrying on? Because I'm a happy type of person, because I know we win this. But we'll win it through resistance. You're not going to resist it on the end of a keyboard. You're not going to resist it, right, by just talking about it. You've got to act. That's why the creator, the illusion, give you the
Have we
capacity
got to
to
all
act.
rise our vibrations then? Or
Absolutely. You raise your vibration. You raise your vibration by being happy. See, the entity that they are, it survives on fear. So everybody's fearful. You see all these people like rabbits in a headlight. They're in a total panic, like sheep in a field. And unfortunately, they are going to be slaughtered. They've got to raise themselves out of that. Otherwise, they're already classed as being dead. So they need to raise themselves out of that and start to become happy.
do you understand all the bit about the birth certificate? You know, that we're not real human
That.
beings.
Yeah.
See,
See, that itself, see, they've broken the law because that's piracy. You cannot attack the vessel. You're worth it. If you murder somebody, you go to prison. They don't like you murdering people. And the reason for that is because you're worth a few £1 million to them. Now, when you're not working, not paying tax, you're not worth anything. You're just worth more money dead, because they then surrender your death certificate to the International Bank of Settlement and they get a payment. So if you want to die...
This is how they could take us over, because NASA get $57 million a day. We pay into our own aerospace thingy bobs. Then you've got the death certificate. And then I didn't realise, I mean, I get on very well with this guy called David Diamitia. He's into land of the law of the land and stuff like that, common law and stuff like that. And yeah, everything's completely different to what you think it is. And he's explained so much to me about what's going on. And
David, yeah. Well, I think David got his first shock. He did a video on he did a video on YouTube, and it's obviously he's been talking about some very crucial things over many years. As soon as he started covering 5G, he started losing his videos. So he realised he's over the target. David realised he's actually right over the target. He lives a bit further north. I've never met the guy, but he's a very, very interesting character and says some very, very helpful things.
We're talking about the same person, SPLO?
I'm not David Brinicia.
Yeah, that's right, Dimitia.
Yeah, that's the same guy.
He's my buddy.
All right, well, tell him he needs to get in touch. I'm a fellow with Geordie. I mean, I think he lives up in
would you like me to arrange a hangout with him?
Yeah, well, I do hang out with David. Yeah, I was. What happened?
That'd be my pleasure. That's what I am, really. I'm like a medium. Exchange for
another one of our people linked me to David, and I did want to chat to him, because obviously the whole thing is you've got to understand.
I'm speaking to him later on another hangout, but I will tell him.
Tell him I'm asking after him. Yeah.
I will. I'll give him the link to this hangout and he can watch it. But I'll tell him. Oh, well, there you go. See, we're not as big as we think we are. We're much smaller, and the community's much more connected than we thought it was.
Yeah. We'll get.
Yeah, I myself are shocked. I mean, like, it's a bit hard. You walk out there and you've got to pretend that you're living on a globe and all that global world, but really underneath there's this whole other thing going on, and you try and explain it to people and they just can't believe you. They just don't believe you. They think you're crazy.
No, but it's because it's unbelievable. You see, the whole point of it is to make it unbelievable so that people can't believe it. That's why I say to people, look, don't believe a single word I say. Do your research. Do your research. I'll point you in the right direction, but don't believe what I'm saying. Just listen to the words and do your own research, because you've got to overcome that cognitive dissonance. I mean, like I said, when I was telling people that they were fitting a weapon system and a bit of street furniture, people can't believe it. So it's easier for them to discredit it and not believe it, because the horror of actually understanding what I'm talking about is so immense. It's easier for them to try and discredit me.
there we were talking away about good things. Well, not the subjects aren't good, but a good conversation. And then suddenly I lost the connection with the Hangout. And so basically we've been going for about 40 minutes, so that was enough. But obviously Mark wants to come back and David Giamitio wants to come back, so that would be really good. But so annoying that the computer then suddenly went into "You've lost connection." But anyway, it was a really great hangout. Very much appreciated Mark's time. He's a very busy person. But anyway, thank you very much for that, Mark. And I'll be putting him in touch with David. Brilliant. Anyway, thanks for listening, everybody.